Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs. Today I'm sharing with you the construction of a very beautiful faux Christmas greenery traditional wreath with beautiful ribbons, pine cones, and full chunky holly berries. If you would love to create a beautiful traditional wreath for your home or your business, or as a gift, allow me to demonstrate step by step how I created this one. Welcome to my channel today. If you're not currently a subscriber, I hope you will consider becoming one. And as well, please give this video a thumbs up. Set your notifications for my channel so you'll be notified each and every time I upload a video. And as always, leave me your comments. I love receiving them. Okay, let's get creating. This beautiful traditional wreath is a very big wreath. It's actually a 30-inch wreath. Now, you don't have to create a wreath this big, but if you would like to, I picked mine up at Hobby Lobby. They have the most gorgeous faux greenery wreaths, very full and plush and beautifully shaped, and they have different sizes. You don't have to create a 30-inch one like I did, but this is a 30-inch wreath. I'm making this for the Quantum House, the sitting room at the Quantum House. I'm actually making two 30-inch wreaths. The next one coming up very soon in a video. I'm putting lights on mine with warm white lights, battery operated. That's optional, do it or not do it, but very pretty to have lights on a wreath. So you might want to think about that. I have here some additional greenery. Now, I love to layer greenery on one of these wreaths, one of these faux greenery wreaths. I love doing that. I like to add sometimes 2, 3, 4 different types of greenery. Really adds a lot of visual interest and really, really adds to the fullness of the wreath. Those pics that I just showed you are such beautiful pics. They're very, obviously, very big holly berries and a beautiful, beautiful red color. I have here the ribbons that I'm using on this wreath. Now, I'm doing a traditional wreath with pine cones and the faux greenery, and I love a beautiful plaid. I don't, I'm very particular about my plaids, but that one I thought was really, really pretty from Hobby Lobby. 50% off on those ribbons. I'm also using the red velvet, both wired and 2.5 inch. Those beautiful long pine cones are my favorite. I love, love, love decorating with those pine cones. I have one of those greenery pipe cleaners. I use that to create a hanger. And of course, you'll need pipe cleaners for creating the bows. Now, I also have a roll of 1.5 inch red velvet and the plaid. And I'm going to make the small bows with that, and I'm going to make the one large bow that's going to be around 4 to 5 o'clock on that wreath with the 2.5 inch. So you'll be seeing me do that here in a bit. First thing I'm going to do here is really fluff out my wreath. So I'm going to go around the wreath and open up all of those greenery stems and really shape my wreath. See how it's becoming fuller as I do that. So yeah, this is a really, really substantial wreath. And again, you don't have to do one this large. You could do a 14-inch wreath. You could do an 18-inch wreath. Whatever you like. You just, you would not be using those large berries if you're doing a smaller wreath, which very easy to find an appropriate size berry at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or even on Amazon. So I have it all opened up and I'm showing you here. I like to sketch out my designs. I don't know if you do this, but this is how I prepare. So I thought I might share that with you, my method of doing things. I'm going to make this wreath with a bow, a big bow at 5 o'clock, and then 3 smaller bows where you see I drew them in there. And I often do this when I have an idea in my head. I sketch it out on paper, and it helps me to prepare accordingly with materials, but just also to prepare my mindset for when I actually go to create the wreath. I put a lot of thought into my project, so obviously you could tell. But you saw there I have the 1.5 inch in both the plaid and the red velvet, and I have the 2.5 inch in the red velvet and the plaid. And I think that is the prettiest plaid. Now, I'm not a big fan of plaid, but that one I actually really, really loved. So I'm going to create about an 18-inch tail to start. And I'm just going to pinch off that 18 inches and I'm going to start to create my bow. Now I'm going to make a nice big bow for around 4 to 5 o'clock on that wreath. And I'm going to fold over my loops and pinch it in the center and create my bow in the same way that I typically do. I fold over my loops, pinch it in the center. My left hand is my holding hand and my right hand is the hand that I create my loops. So my left hand holds everything together, pinched in the center. And then you'll see that I use my right hand to create my loops. Now I'm creating a 6-loop bow here with those 14-inch loops, which are really going to complement this wreath and really add a lot of beautiful red color to this wreath. Now, I did a tutorial where I did a demonstration of how to do a bow like this very recently. You should be able to find that on my playlist. I showed you how to do a tree topper and how to create a bow for the branches of the tree. But you'll be able to see the method that I typically use. Now, I create my bows in my hand. However, if you want to use an easy bow maker, you could do that, or a bow dabra. Either one of those would work just fine. So you can see I open up my loops as I go, holding it tightly in the center, always twisting my ribbon to have the right side or the best side of the ribbon facing up. And that would be that beautiful velvet side, and in the case of this ribbon. So I have my 3 loops on each side, or 6 loops altogether. I'm going to take a half of a pipe cleaner in red. I always use pipe cleaners that are complementary to the ribbon that I'm using. So I'm just going to twist that in the back, and now all of my loops are secure with that pipe cleaner. Now I'm just going to cut off my tails, and I will deal with how I'm going to finish those tails later, but I can assure you that I will just be angling those tails on the ends. Okay, so I'm just opening up my loops, see how my bow is looking here, and I'm very happy with that. Now I'm going to go ahead and do it. I just angled my tails. Love, love, long, cascading velvet tails coming down from a wreath. Love red velvet ribbon on a traditional wreath. And I also love it paired up with a beautiful plaid. And so here goes that second layer of that bow. Now, if you're more comfortable using a measuring mat so that you can measure out every loop, that's fine as well. You do you, however it works best for you. Now, I'm going to lessen the size of my loops a little bit because I want that red velvet bow, the loops of that bow, to be showing once I put that plaid bow on top of it. So I'm going to go with around 12 inches, something in that neighborhood, 12 and a half. And I'm going to create my loops exactly the same way, holding with my left, constructing the bow with my right, checking my loops to see that they're symmetrical and matched up with one another in size. Fold it over, pinch it in the center. See how I use my right hand to do all of my work, and my left hand is just holding. 3 loops on each side for this layer as well. Now I'm not going to be putting anything in the center of this bow except for a center loop. Sometimes on bows that I create, I put something in the center other than a ribbon loop. But this time, I just want that beautiful bow to stand on its own, sitting at around 4 to 5 o'clock on that wreath, and it's going to be just beautiful. So I'm going to create a center loop here now. So quite simply, all I'm doing is, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do an extra loop here. I almost forgot about that. Sorry. I decided to create an extra loop and really, really full bow on this wreath. So I'm creating one single loop to rest on the 3 loops. So see how those single loops are sitting right on top of the 3? And I constructed that exactly the same way, but I made those loops a little bit less as well. So those are around 10 inches. So my bottom loops are 14. And then my smaller loops, 12 inches, and my smaller loops are around 10 inches. Sorry about that. So 12 inches, sorry. I've been making a lot of bows lately, so I got my wires crossed there. So 12 inches on the bottom loops, and then those 2 resting loops on that are sitting on the 3, that's 10 inches. Now I'm creating a single loop going right down the center. And that, I don't measure that out, but I want to say, if I had to guess, it would be around 5 inches. But I'm just creating one little loop going right down the center, and that is going to finish off that bow. Now I'm going to cut my tail off at the same 14 inches. I want to leave my tails really long until I get it on the wreath, and then I'll trim it. Okay, so then I'm going to take that tail on the top, pop it right through that center loop, pull it through, and now I have those tails all married up. Look at that pretty ribbon. Such a pretty plaid. It actually has a little metallic gold thread going through it. You can't really see it there, but it just really so pretty. I love the colors of it. So how do I shape my loops? I was showing you there. I open up my fingers, and that's how I just shape them. I put my fingers in, and then I open them up, and then I allow those loops to spread open. Okay, now I'm going to take the pipe cleaners. I put a full-size pipe cleaner in there because now it will allow me to wrap that pipe cleaner with the longer tails around that bottom bow, which is the red velvet. So I'm going to align my centers of my bows, pull it very, very tightly, and twist. Now this is going to hold that bow together very beautifully. Now we're going to be doing 3 smaller bows. Now that's optional whether you like that or not. But I like the look of that. When I do a wreath with pine cones and holly berries, I typically add more bows. And I actually even added a few ribbon bundles, which you're going to see later. I really wanted to play up that velvet ribbon and that plaid on that wreath. So now I'm just opening up my loops. See how I do that? Those 2 single loops sitting on top. See how pretty that is? When you add those extra little single loops that are resting on the 3, that really makes your bow a lot fuller. So yeah, and the type of bows that I make, there's so many options in how you can create them. That's why I'm always trying to get you all to learn how to make this bow that I make. So I don't know if you're trying it, if you're not. No one ever really, I think maybe once someone has said, oh, I'm practicing the bows. It's one of my very loyal subscribers who's doing that. But yeah, let me know. Do you ever try to make these bows? Because I really try to get it so that you can understand how I do it. But back to the bow. Okay, so we're making the smaller one now. And these are only around 10 inches, and the loops are only around 10 inches long. Because these are smaller bows, and they're just going to be around the wreath to just kind of complement the large bow, but also to add pops of color around the wreath. And I'm going to make them exactly in the same combination, the red velvet on the bottom and the plaid on the top. I'm going to create 3 loops on each side, or 6 loops altogether. Again, left hand holding hand, right hand forms the loops. The left hand pinches and holds in the center, while the right hand shapes the bow. I'm going to take a half a pipe cleaner, wrap it around there, pull the tail down, and now I have my base bow. I'm going to create 3 of these. And my tails, I don't really want them that long. I want to say I cut them off right around maybe 6-7 inches, because these are not going to be cascading down from the wreath. They're just going to be resting on the wreath. And so you'll see how I create that look when I put them on. Okay, so now I'm going to create my plaid ribbon bow to sit right on top of there. And those loops are going to be a little bit smaller, obviously, so they sit on there, on top of that red velvet. And I just created about 7 to 8 inches of a tail there. And now I'm going to fold over my loops. They're around 8 inches. Fold over my loops, pinch it in the center. Don't forget to twist so you have the correct side of the ribbon facing up. Now, you could create this wreath with any type of bow that you like. There are just so much to choose from. But, you do you however you want to create yours. But what I'm just trying to share with you here in this tutorial and the next one coming up is just the basic principles of wreath making. You want to create balance and symmetry in your wreath. There's all different types of options in the way that you can use bows and use ribbons and use embellishments that go on a wreath. But whatever tips you can pick up from me, that makes me happy. Because I love when people get excited about making wreaths, because to me, just can't imagine not having a wreath or not having that ability to make a wreath to share with others. And also, in my case, this one's going to the Quantum House. So it's just going to be beautiful. It's going to be placed over a couch that's in one of the sitting rooms at the Quantum House where families gather. If you're not familiar, if you've first time on my channel, I do donate my pieces, most of the pieces that I do, to the Quantum House, which is like the Ronald McDonald House. It houses families that have a child in the family that's being treated for a serious medical condition. So it's a really beautiful facility that provides temporary housing. And in that facility, there are lots of different rooms that I'm going to be contributing to decorating with holiday decor, Christmas decor. And I am doing 2 of the sitting rooms. And it's very, very nice, cozy little room with a small couch and 2 chairs. But it's a great place for families to congregate. And yeah, I wanted to do two beautiful wreaths to embellish that area over the couch. I'm also going to be doing some other things for those rooms, which you'll see in the upcoming videos. I'm going to be doing some throw pillow covers and a couple of small tabletop arrangements. Okay, so yeah, let's put that bow on, because that bow's going to take up quite a bit of space, and there's no need to be placing a lot of embellishments such as pine cones and holly berries in an area that's going to be covered up with that big wreath. So I'm going to take the long tails that I have there, and I am going to, oh, you know what? I think I popped a fresh pipe cleaner in there. A fresh pipe cleaner. What is that? Well, that's a full-size pipe cleaner. Yeah, I popped it right through I can't speak, through the button or the single loop, going right down the center of that bow, and I am going to wrap it around the wire of the wreath frame. So I'm reaching through there. Can't see it, but my hand is underneath there, and I'm twisting my pipe cleaners to hold that bow on. So, yeah, I put a full-size pipe cleaner through there because of the fullness of that wreath. So I really needed that extra little bit of pipe cleaner to reach through all of that greenery. So now I'm going about opening up my loops. I want to assess exactly how much room or how much area on that wreath that big bow is going to consume. So that way I know where I'm going to put my pine cones and my holly berries, and where I'm going to place my small bows. And like I said, no need to be embellishing an area that's going to be covered up. So that's why I do my bow first. Now, this is a really big wreath, as I mentioned. So I'm going to do my best to, enable you to see what I'm doing as I go along. But this area here that you're looking at is right around 4 to 5 o'clock. So I do have my longer tails that are going to be hanging down from the wreath. And now it is time to continue on decorating the wreath. Now, as I mentioned, I already have the lights on. Now, I'm just going to place my bows down and see exactly where I think I want them. And according to my drawing, that's where I'm putting them. So notice how I have my tails of my smaller bows pointing toward the outer perimeter of the wreath. So what I did was attached those bows exactly the way I attached the big one, with the pipe cleaner around the frame of the wreath. And now I'm going to start inserting a different type of greenery. Now this adds a little bit of a different color of a green, which always adds visual interest. And it also is a totally different texture. So yeah, I really love to do this. I take my picks, which, by the way, these picks are very affordable. They're actually only $2.99, and you take off the 50%, and, you have a very affordable pick. And there's around 5 of those sections that I snip off with my wire cutters, and I just place them around the wreath. Now, remember that a wreath has a direction, which I'm pointing out right there. So I follow the direction of the wreath like I'm pointing to right now. And that's the way I place my greenery, just following the path of the wreath. See how I have it all inserted and it's going a certain direction. So it's actually going clockwise in plain words. Okay, starting from the big bow and working my way all the way around. And what I'm going to do is just place them in there to see how many I need and how it looks. And then I'll go around with my hot glue gun and I will secure those pieces in there with my hot glue. I prefer Gorilla Hot Glue. I think it has a great longevity and, it's a good quality glue. So I usually use that, almost always use Gorilla Glue. And especially on my wreaths that I know are going to be in probably a warmer area during storage throughout the year. Okay, so now I do go around this particular greenery. Sometimes in the packing process and the shipping process, it gets a little bit, some of the little pieces of greenery get bent. So I take my scissors and snip those off. And then right at the very base of that greenery, I put a blob of hot glue and I push it in and I kind of wiggle it a little bit to make sure, see what I'm doing? I'm making sure that I'm connecting with that greenery down inside of there, making sure that my glue is really going to hold and attach to something. Okay, so I go all the way around and I do that process. This is so easy to do. Now, I only put one extra type of greenery on mine, this particular wreath, but many times I add more than one. So feel free to do that. It really adds a lot of visual interest. But I have a lot going on this wreath. I have all of these bows. I have these big, chunky, big, beautiful holly berries. And then I have some ribbon bundles and I have pine cones. So I didn't feel I needed another type of greenery. But depending upon what you want to put on your wreath, you can just really add as much greenery or as little as you like. Now, I got these big chunky berries at Hobby Lobby. And I do snip off some of the stem. I don't really need all of that. And I am going to be just placing them around the wreath to see exactly where I want them and how, well they're going to cover. And once I place them in there, I'm going to take the greenery of the wreath and wrap it around. So I don't want to see the stems. I really just want to see those berries poking up out of the greenery. So I can manipulate that greenery, that wreath greenery around those stems and really make that look very, very finished. So I have all of my berries on now. And I believe I used 4 full stems of those. Yes, 4. So I have 3 bows, 4 stems of holly berries. And then for the additional greenery, I want to say maybe I used 8 or 10. Okay, so yeah, I love these pine cones. All right, so I put my pine cones in. Again, following that clockwise pattern of the wreath or direction of the wreath. Now, I put my pine cones in and I even glued them in at the base with hot glue. And you're going to see later that I just kept looking at the wreath and looking at the wreath, and I thought it's missing something. It's missing something. So you're going to see what that something is here in just a bit. So I'm showing you there. I placed my pine cones in different directions, following the direction of the wreath. See how my ribbon tails are facing outward? I point them toward the outer perimeter of the wreath. And I did angle the tails. And I left the tails around, they were around 7 inches, 7, 8 inches maybe a little less. Okay, so I put the wreath up. And I looked at it, and I definitely do that every single time. Am I done? Am I really done? Or is there something about the wreath that I want to change? So I always take like a day, and I look at it. I walk by it, and I look at it again and again. And I just kept having this feeling that it needed something. But I'm going to show you. If you don't want to glue your pipe cleaner or your pine cones on, you can use wire. and just kind of feed the wire through the base of the pine cone, and then you could wire them on. If you don't want to glue them, you could wire anything on that you like. You could wire on those hollyberry picks if you'd like. You know, that's your choice. This wreath is going to be on the inside, and I am not concerned at all about anything falling off. And we'll talk about that something that I felt that the wreath was missing here in just a minute. But I'm going to take that greenery chenille stem, or that greenery pipe cleaner, and I'm going to determine exactly where the top of the wreath is. And I do that by checking my wreath to make sure that my bow is going to hang or be positioned at 5 o'clock on the wreath the way I intended it. And I'm just going to wrap and twist and twist. This is going to be a heavy wreath, so I really want that strong pipe cleaner, which those are very strong. And then I flip it around so the loop is on top, and then I further wrap it around the wreath frame. Okay, so I'm at my RV. So for the weekend, this is where I do a lot of my crafting. And I have a pantry door, so I hung up my wreath on the pantry door. And now I decide, you know what? There's something I want to put on that wreath. Now, I often, when I create a wreath, I love to have something kind of hanging down, if you will, from the top of the wreath on the inner opening of the wreath. And now that will make more sense here in just a moment. But what did I want to put there? I needed to do something to create that look that I wanted to go for. So I took another one of my berry picks and my greenery picks, and I'm going to create a little piece that's going to trail down a little bit from my wreath into the center opening of my wreath. Now I'm just creating something here. Just put a stream of glue right along that stem of that hollyberry pick. Look what I'm creating here. Now this is going to be really pretty hanging down. I very often do this on wreaths. If you follow my channel, I'm sure you know what I'm referring to here. But rather than to just have a round opening in the center of my wreath, I like to have a little bit of whatever's going on that wreath, kind of, you know, just trailing down from the wreath, if that makes any sense at all. Sometimes it's difficult to describe things. It's so clear in my head. And, you know, it's sometimes difficult to express it, but I hope I'm making sense here. All right, so I stuck that piece right up into the wreath. I hot glued it. And you see what I mean about that, how I added that little piece coming down in the center, just kind of complement the wreath a little bit. And I think that was so pretty. And now for that little something that I just felt needed to happen with that wreath. Now you see, this is a really gorgeous, beautiful, traditional wreath. So I said, I know what it is. I need to put some white tips on my pine cone. So yeah, I took out my Snow White Waverly chalk paint and a small paintbrush. Now this would have been brilliant if I would have thought of it earlier when I didn't have the pine cones on there. But guess what? They're already glued in, and I said, that doesn't stop me. I want to tip my pine cones with white to look like snow. And let me tell you, this made a huge difference in this wreath. And this is how I did it. I just tapped my paintbrush on all the edges of those little, whatever you call them, that create that pine cone. I can't think of the name of it right now, but you got the idea. So guess what I did? I went around my wreath very carefully, not to touch anything else like a hollyberry or any of the greenery, and I put white tips on all of my pine cones. And let me tell you, it made a huge difference. So now my pine cones they have that little bit of a snowy look to them, but it also coordinated very well with the white in that ribbon. So that was what I felt, that was what I was missing. All right, now I mentioned that I did create some ribbon bundles. I cut my ribbon in about 8 to 9 inch lengths, pinched it in the center, wrapped a pipe cleaner around it. I put the plaid on top. I dovetailed the ends because I do that when I do ribbon bundles. I created about 8 bundles and I placed them around the wreath. Now you may not notice them too much here as you look at the finished wreath, but they're on there and they're adding color and bringing everything all together to match the bows. And look how pretty this is. Tell me what you think of this one. I have a beautiful one coming up. For those of you who are waiting for the owls, yeah, the owls that I said I was going to use on a wreath, it's coming up, and oh boy, it is really beautiful. Okay, so remember to subscribe, to give this video a thumbs up. Leave me your comments. Tell me what you think of this wreath. And until next time, you all take care.